Hey everyone, welcome back. It's a podcast for June 25th. It's me, your host, Edgar Carbajal, mixed martial arts analyst for Frontproof Media.com. And today we got a guest, actually my boss over at Frontproof Media, Joseph Correa and Daniel Zaldivar, both come in. Today, June 25th, tonight actually, is boxing at Barclays. Thurman versus Porter on PBC, and it's going to be on CBS. So you guys should check that out. We do a quick assessment of that. We did a written breakdown, but you can listen to this episode to hear an assessment on that, and we talk some MMA as well. But this is just more of an introduction for you guys to meet my new boss and things we have planned for frontproofmedia.com. So please listen in, and let me just get some advertising out of the way before we get started. So if you guys like this podcast and you'd like to support it, please go to theblogboardjungle.com and make your Amazon purchases through any of the Amazon links there. Also, if you're a fan of any fitness supplements at all, protein powders and things like that, there's links there for Onnit, something I like using, and you can make your purchases through there as well. So you can check this episode and other episodes of the podcast out over at theblogboardjungle.com. And anything specific when we collaborate like this, you'll probably find it at frontproofmedia.com as well. So please listen in, and if you have any questions or comments, by all means comment in the comment section below. Thanks. Yeah, all right. So I'm talking with Joseph Correa and Daniel Zaldivar of Frontproof Media. Joseph's the founder of frontproofmedia.com, and Daniel obviously has been on the podcast before, a boxing analyst for Frontproof Media and Page 2 Sports back in the day. So Joseph, tell us about Frontproof Media and how you got started, and where you look to go in the days ahead.
Basically, I'm a former fighter myself. I was an amateur fighter. Started at the age of 5 boxing. My dad taught me the art of boxing, and I say art because I see it very much as the sweet science. There is an art form to it. It's not just a bloodlust sport. From there, I became a portrait photographer, and Frontproof Media kind of started with music and photography. Working in the entertainment industry, shooting models, music artists, things of that nature. It wasn't something that I was really in love with. Boxing has been something I've always been in love with. So basically, one day I thought about it. I said, I got connections in the boxing game. Why not use those connections to do what I love? And I started shooting ringside photography, and it just took off from there. My dad is a very big supporter of mine. He is also a photographer, and he talked to me over and over about writing. I didn't want to do that at first. I just thought I could do the whole Frontproof thing as a photographer. I did really well with it initially. But I found out very quickly that it's a small world in terms of boxing photography and photographers, and the opportunities just weren't many. So I took his advice, started writing some about the sport, meeting with some of the connections that I had in the sport, and making more connections, and little by little putting stuff out there and growing a fan base. I was able to meet both of you guys, which has been great from that point on.
Oh, thanks.
We've just been growing, as you both know. You guys have been a key part in the growth, along with Hector Franco as well, who is local here in St. Pete as well. And where I see this company going, I want to be the media source. As we've spoken about before, I want to be the source for boxing and MMA, and hopefully in the future, if we can incorporate other sports, that'd be great as well. But we're doing what we love, and hopefully we can make this, or let me not even say hopefully, we are going to make this a household name.
Cool. So you were actually we were supposed to do this together, but I know like travel problems or whatever kept you from coming up to cover the Thurman Porter fight that's going on tonight. And we got Daniel here, so I'd like to hear the breakdown. I know we did it it's already up on the website for people to check out at frontproofmedia.com. But if you guys could obviously, I'm not as close to boxing as I used to be when I was younger. I'm more of the MMA guy. But if Daniel could give us his breakdown of how he thinks the fight can go, and then you go after.
Well, as I there's an excerpt of my opinion on a piece that Hector actually put together on the site. But I guess in a sense, I'm picking Porter to win. But I mean, like I said, there's two. This is probably the closest matchup I've ever seen, or at least in recent memory. I mean, Porter's 26-1-1. Thurman is, I think, 26-0, 25-0, something like that. They both came up like in the amateurs. They know each other. They know each other just as well as about anybody else. So some people are picking Thurman, some people are picking Porter. I've heard more people pick Thurman just because of his knockout thing. But I think Porter's going to end up taking it, and he's going to have to utilize his speed. But Keith Thurman is called the one-time Thurman because he wants to look for that one-time shot to end the fight. So I have no doubt that he's going to be looking for it. I know Joseph predicted Thurman to win by KO.
I think I did too.
So I'm going Porter, but it doesn't mean I'm counting out Thurman, just because, like I said, it's such a close matchup. Literally, probably like 51-49, stuff like that. And you know, whoever wins, like I just hope they put on a great show. And just, I mean, and they're going to be on CBS. That's another big thing. That's huge. So I'm hoping just because PBC has had some like pretty low ratings, and there's been rumors that they've been losing money and they've been spending so much money over budget and everything. I'm hoping that a lot of people tune into this fight, and just because it's on CBS, you know, it's free, that they hit it out of the park, and then these guys, their stock in the sport goes up. But like I said, I'm picking Porter to win, a split decision. So I don't know. I know Joseph mentioned that he's picking Thurman, and I would like to see why. I would like to hear his take on why he thinks Thurman is going to take it by KO.
Yeah, because he wasn't really detailed in what he wrote.
No, actually, I went in there and I put in why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I went behind it because I noticed it looked a little unbalanced. I said, wow. Let me just start by saying this is the first primetime fight on CBS in 38 years. The last time that CBS had a primetime fight, it was Muhammad Ali, rest in peace. So that's huge for the sport. As Daniel mentioned, this is probably one of the most even matchups that you can think of in the sport, particularly stylistically. You know, you have the bull versus the matador. That's how I look at it. Sean Porter is a come-forward, high-pressure, high-endurance type of fighter who just stays in your chest the whole fight. Keith Thurman is, to me and many others, the biggest puncher in the welterweight, but he also can box. He has very good feet. He has a good jab, and what a lot of people don't know unless they know him personally, he's an extremely cerebral guy. So, you know, he's not the type to do what a lot of fighters do, like the Adrian Broners and things of that nature. I mean, he's confident, but he reads books and plays instruments and does a lot of extracurricular activities like that. He's real cerebral. If you ever talk to the guy, real smart guy. I think he's going to outsmart Porter in there. I think Porter has the tendency to get inside and smother his own work, so to speak. So although he does get inside and he puts in work, he smothers a lot of the stuff he does. That's why his knockouts have kind of gone down, because early in his career, he's a real strong fighter, very physically strong. Early in his career, he was knocking guys out. That kind of started to tail off some because of him getting inside and kind of smothering his own work. I think that's going to play a key factor in this fight. I think if he does get inside, which he will at times, he's not going to be that effective against Keith. Another thing Keith has going for him, again, is his feet. Much like Adrian Broner did in the 12th round in his fight with Sean Porter, he was able to put Sean Porter down because he created some distance. He basically stepped back, threw a check hook, and knocked him down. Thurman's a different animal when it comes to punching power than Adrian Broner. If he does that, Porter's not getting up. And I think that's how the fight's going to play out. I think eventually, around the 7th, 8th round, he's going to find the opening when Porter, as he tends to do, will come in with his head down. I think Keith's going to be ready for it. He's going to take a little step back, a little half step back, shoot an uppercut or hook, and that's all she wrote. I don't think he's going to be able to deal with... And I think Keith is the faster of the two as well. Just a better boxer overall. Where I think Keith will have problems, particularly early, is that work rate. They've both been on layoffs. Keith's been 11 months. I believe Porter now is at the year mark. Porter did, however, have an exhibition fight about a month and a half ago that went 12 rounds. So he's been a little more active in terms of that. Also, this fight was scheduled to be a few months ago, had to be called off because Keith was involved in a car accident where he suffered whiplash type injury. So that kind of was a setback. So that could play a factor. In talking to Keith, he says he's fine, he's ready to go. And much like Daniel said earlier, he is going to be looking for the KO. His motto is one time, all the time, KOs for life. So
that's hilarious, man. That's hilarious that he says it like that.
Every round, he's going to be looking for the knockout, but you just can't discredit his boxing skill as well.
I kind of agree in the thing about the going against someone that comes forward with pressure like Porter from the video I watched anyway, just to do the write up. As I studied both of them, that's what I did notice, that Thurman seems like he's better at fighting at a range, or at least his reach in outside striking range. I think he can counter better from there, and I guess I guess Porter has the endurance to continue the pressure, but I feel like as it goes on, that wears out on anybody. And I feel like he'll be able to weather the storm to deliver the KO. So I guess you're alone, Daniel. I mean, we'll see tonight, but I mean, I don't know. Don't you think that would play a factor if he can't get past, or if he has to chase Thurman enough and wear out his exhaust himself?
No, of course. Like I said, like if Thurman does end up getting the victory, then I'm not going to be like surprised because it's such an even matchup. If he the only way I'll be surprised if this ends like in the first or second round, in like nasty fashion. I mean, I don't expect that, but you never know. You get caught with one shot, one time, I went with Porter more in a sense just because so many other people who I've talked to have been picking Thurman, which is not. It's realistic. I mean, the guy has the tools to beat him, but I went Porter more because, I guess he's more of the underdog, even though it's an even matchup. And I think Porter, I'm assuming Porter is taking that to heart, where he's probably hearing, everybody's picking Thurman. He's like, but, I'm going to pull this one out. I'm going to show everybody what I got. And what I want to talk about is who the winner should fight next. Ed, I know you're more the MMA guy, but there's a guy. He's from England. His name is Kell Brook. He's undefeated too. He's the only one who's ever beat Sean Porter. Sean Porter's only loss is against that guy. And he's fighting another guy, Jesse Vargas, soon. I think in the next month or two. And I want to see whoever wins this fight fight Kell Brook, because if you think about it, if Keith Thurman wins, then it'd be realistic for him to fight the guy that also beat Sean Porter. Like I don't see why that matchup wouldn't happen down the line. What do you think, Joseph?
I'm on the other side. I'd like to see the winner fight Danny Garcia. For a couple reasons. I mean, number one, Danny Garcia shouldn't be an undefeated fighter right now.
He's undefeated by accident.
Correct. He's gotten a couple gifts. One more than the other. But you could argue either way. And I know Keith wants that fight. I'm sure Sean Porter wants that fight in the welterweight division, which is wild to me. Danny Garcia is not a natural welterweight. He's moved into the welterweight division now. He's had one fight in the welterweight, or 2 fights in the welterweight division now, and he's the cash cow. So that kind of doesn't make sense. He just got there, and he's already the guy. He's got the prestigious WBC belt, and I'd like to see the winner fight Danny Garcia. But, as Daniel said, Kell Brook is also a viable opponent. That'd be a great fight. I know Keith said that he would fight him. He also said he'd go to England to fight Kell Brook. He said Kell Brook came here and took the title. He'd be willing to go there and take the title back, bring it back to the United States. So I know he would take that fight. He's not afraid to fight anyone in the division. We do have another interesting guy coming up in the welterweight division in Errol Spence.
Oh, yeah.
He'd be an interesting fight for anyone in the division. A lot of guys don't want to fight him. I see why. I mean, to me, he still needs to prove himself. He did stop Chris Algieri, who no one stops, so that's an impressive start.
Algieri called the fights at Bellator last night. Did you guys?
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter. I was going to ask you about that. I was going to ask you about that after this, but real quick, rewinding, Ed, because Ed was during the Errol Spence Chris Algieri fight. They had like a media luncheon, and Ed was there covering it. I mean, what did you think of them as you were sitting there with them, talking to them and everything, and and then after the fight, of course, what was your opinion?
You know what? I actually thought Algieri had a chance just because of the way they interacted with each other, and with the face-off and the photos and stuff, and even when Algieri was kind enough to take my seat and have his steak there, he was talking with a bunch of other reporters, and he even commented on the way Errol Spence carried himself during the media rounds. And I mean, obviously, it's just a younger man getting used to that as he's coming up. But I mean, because it seemed to me that Algieri had the sense that Spence was either afraid or nervous, and obviously, whatever that was, it might have just been the cameras, because obviously, from what we saw after the fact, he wasn't afraid at all. Or maybe that was, his apprehensiveness and stuff just being let out when he put him away. So obviously, maybe he took him lightly. This is from what I observed at the media lunch, I mean, that's why when Joseph mentioned Errol Spence, that's actually somebody I wouldn't mind seeing fight either. So either way, though, just because of what you said earlier when you started talking, do you think these fights will happen under the PBC banner? I mean, if they're losing money, if they're not making enough money at the gate, like the rumors are saying, do you think? I mean, how long do you think it'll be in the public eye, at least under PBC? Do you think PBC is in trouble, or is it coming to an end?
I don't think so.
Go ahead, Joe.
I don't think so. There were reports that they were bringing on Richard Schaefer, who was instrumental in building Golden Boy. I know Daniel's really familiar with the Golden Boy brand being in Los Angeles. Richard Schaefer did a lot for that brand and helped to shape and mold the brand. I think bringing him on, if that is in fact the case, I think he's going to do a lot to resurrect the PBC brand, if you will. I do think that the fights would take place under the PBC moniker, and I think they'd be exciting fights. Now, do I think Errol Spence and Keith Thurman is going to happen soon? Probably not. Errol Spence probably is about 2, maybe 3 fights away from that. Although the Algieri stoppage was extremely impressive, Algieri's fought a lot of good guys, and they haven't been able to stop him, and Errol Spence was. He's still got a ways to go. And kind of the way that the fights have been going, he will likely fight a guy like Berto or Guerrero, Collazo, somebody like that next. That's likely what's going to happen.
You know, going back to Ed's question about the PBC, the thing that I've been like scratching my head about at least like the last couple months, ever since they've been announced the Thurman Porter fight. The fight's going to be on CBS, but it's not PBC branding. It's Showtime. It's CBS. It's Showtime on CBS. And I mean, even when this bout was rumored for last year and it was leading up to it, I mean, everybody knows they're both PBC fighters. They're represented by Al Heyman, and I mean, I talked about this with some other guys out here in LA, and we all like assumed like, oh yeah, that'll be PBC branding because that's one of the biggest fights they could make, and it'll represent their brand, and then they get to advertise their brand, and then people watch it, and then they get familiar with the PBC branding and logo. And then they announced it, and they said it was going to be Showtime on CBS. Even though Showtime and PBC are like practically partners, I just thought that was interesting, just because I assumed that PBC would put their branding on there and to get as much exposure for their brand as possible in such a big fight like this. But I mean, I'd want to know what you guys think. I don't know if you guys thought about that, but I've been thinking about that the last couple of days. I mean, it doesn't matter either way. We get to watch the fight, but it just interested me.
I just think it has a lot to do with the way people consume media nowadays. When you look at things like, and I think you might have written about it in the past, Daniel. I don't remember. I don't think it was before you and I came to Frontproof Media. With the way people consume media now, like you have things like Fight Pass and Fight TV, and De La Hoya was talking about making some form of online streaming, through your phone, boxing matches. And it seems like that just seems to be the new hot ticket. It was actually a topic of conversation when I was at the Combate Americas thing this past Wednesday that Campbell McLaren had in New York. And it's just with the changing media landscape, I think what you're seeing with the CBS/Showtime, that it might be just something that they're working on in the future, because people are cutting the cord and stuff. So, like they might be coming up with some other way for people to consume, their events. That's just me speculating, though.
What do you think, Joseph?
I agree. It is going more to a mobile landscape and platform for everything. I can say personally with Frontproof, like most of the traffic that we get is mobile. People, that's how they consume their media fix. They're on their phones. Their phones are mini computers. So it's very possible that a lot of these major productions are looking to be more mobile in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Not sure for, and again, like Ed said, I'm speculating, but I could see it. It's definitely heading that way.
Yeah.
Websites, they're starting to make apps where the website is the app. So.
Yeah. Which is, I feel like that's a little bit overkill when websites do that, but that's just my opinion. But like that Fight TV app they're trying to get all combat sports. Like they have pro wrestling, I believe they have Lion Fight on there, and there's boxing on there too. So I think we just have to wait and see. But it'll be a matter of time before the channels don't exist anymore. Now it's going to be the app where you can catch your media at. And just to close, since we talked boxing this whole time for tonight's event, and we made all our calls for Thurman and Porter, but I think Daniel, are you gonna be at UFC 200 in Vegas?
I won't be at the actual event, but I plan on being there at least right before it, so we can link up and kind of we can do a podcast on location if you want.
Okay, yeah, no, definitely. That's why I was asking. But all right. So I wanted to get a prediction out of Joseph then, because I figure you and I can do one when you're there. But Joseph, I mean, from what you know of that big card for UFC 200, for Brock Lesnar, Mark Hunt, and then Daniel Cormier and John Jones, and obviously Frankie Edgar and Jose Aldo. Do you have any prediction based on what you know for those 3 fights?
I do.
Let's have them.
I think Mark Hunt stops Lesnar. I think Lesnar's chin. Lesnar is the Amir Khan of MMA. He's a strong guy, you know.
I would like to see you tell that to his face.
I'd probably be bold enough to do it, even though he'd kill me. But I don't think he has the chin. I think Mark Hunt is a huge puncher, and if he can keep Lesnar off of him, if he can use movement and kind of circle and pivot and work off of that, his stand-up game, and keep Lesnar off of him and avoid being taken down, I don't see how Lesnar can beat him punch for punch. Mark Hunt, if I'm not mistaken, knocked out my favorite in Roy Nelson. Nobody knocks out Roy Nelson.
No.
You know what I mean? He's been hit by everybody, and nobody knocks him out. So that was enough. That was enough for me to know that this dude's punching power is the truth.
Yeah.
And, you know, granted, punching power is not everything, but Lesnar's been out of the game for a while.
Yeah.
I don't see him competing with someone who's been active like that.
So what about the main event, Jones and Cormier?
Very interesting matchup. John Jones is sort of an enigma in terms of everything, really. I mean, he's never really been beaten, ever. I mean, he has the loss, but we know that was controversial.
Yeah, it's like a DQ type of thing, yeah.
Correct. That was kind of like Roy Jones back in the day. He had a disqualification when he fought Montel Griffin. I
remember that.
Yeah, he hit him when he was down, which really should have been on the referee because they never stepped in. They never did anything. So I kind of see it as a situation like that. So, I mean, Cormier is, if we liken him to a boxer, he grinds out wins and things, much like Sean Porter. You know, he keeps coming. He's got pretty good cardio. I know his wrestling is outstanding.
Yeah.
I just don't know, man. I don't know that he can get John Jones.
No, Jones might have his number. I agree with you on that one. And then finally, Jose Aldo and Frankie Edgar. And keep in mind, I'm a hardcore Frankie Edgar because of Jersey.
I like Jose Aldo. I do. I think he brings a lot to the table. He can do a little bit of everything. His stand-up game is phenomenal.
Even that dog disagrees with you.
His stand-up game is phenomenal. He's fast. If I'm not mistaken, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu too. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, they both are, yeah.
Okay. So it's going to be tough, though, because in his last fight, he was clipped and knocked out in, 13 seconds?
Yeah.
So, I mean, some guys don't recover from that. So it'll be really, really interesting, particularly guys who aren't used to being knocked out. I can bring to mind Roy Jones once again. Like, once he was knocked out,
never the same.
He's never been the same.
Yeah.
You know, even against mediocre opponents. It's just... to take it MMA, Chuck Liddell, once he was brutally KO'd, looked like everybody started knocking him out. So we don't know how he's going to react when he's touched. Frankie Edgar, I like him too because that dude grinds, and he's also a very good talent. I know he can wrestle some too, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, he can wrestle for sure. I mean, he makes me tired watching him. Like I feel like I'm getting beat just watching his fight.
That's how I feel. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask Ed real quick before we end the show about the whole what's going on with the whole UFC like being sold or is what's going on with that? Because I've seen some stuff online and I kind of glanced over it, but I was going to ask you about it and see what's going on with that.
I mean, it's completely ridiculous just to even focus on it because I don't think anything's going to change for people that are just fans of the sport. And Dana White kind of reiterated that. He was just, they started their own podcast with Matt Serra and Jim Norton, and the very first episode had Dana White on, and he addressed it, and he was just, I mean, he didn't confirm or deny, but what he said was nobody that works there has anything to worry about. So if the fights keep coming, and this is just because the way that you guys know, I don't like to cover the BS of the sport, like the stuff about Ariel Helwani and all that stuff. That's all nonsense. I mean, ultimately it's about the fights and the fighters, and as long as they're still working, then we still have stuff to watch and report on. So based on what Dana White said, he said nobody that works for him has anything to worry about. So I kind of don't care as long as there's still events coming and they still come to New York. I mean, that's all I care about. So
is Paige Van Zandt? Are they trying to make her like the heir to the throne of Ronda Rousey?
Man, that girl ain't.
I mean, her name's been popping up. I just want to, because I've never really seen her fights, but I heard that because now that Lesnar's got one fight with the UFC, I heard that the WWE was trying to get her for their SummerSlam pay-per-view, and I was like, Paige Van Zandt, and like I saw pictures of her, and I was like, oh, okay, she's a blonde, like she's
very media friendly, she's very welcoming to the public eye and all that nonsense. But I honestly, I mean, she's and I'm not, I'm just, that's just me as a fan. I don't care what they do with her. However, I mean, she is a hardcore competitor, and I mean, I'm only judging by her last fight where she was demolished by Rose Namajunas. She was, I mean, she lost every single round and then she got finished, but she never quit. I mean, she took a beating, and she doesn't look like someone that can take a beating, but she's obviously tough as nails, and she can take a beating. That being said, though, I don't like the whole marketing a fighter, to me. I don't need to be sold on anyone. I think these athletes can sell themselves based on their performances. So that's where I am with Paige Van Zandt. And I would appreciate it if you wouldn't ask me again.
Just for that, I'm going to ask you in 2 weeks.
All right. All right. Well, I think that's all the time we should use today, guys. I appreciate you taking the time out to come on and do this with me. I'm sorry about all the noise and any other stuff that didn't make it through because of my horrible internet. I blame Comcast for that since they took Spike TV away, and that's just my little jab at Comcast. Anyway, thank you, Joseph, for coming on, and thank you, Daniel. I guess me and Daniel will be back on. Maybe we'll do it live in a couple of weeks when I'm in Vegas, and we'll definitely try to get more of these in with Frontproof Media. Joseph and Hector next time. Hector Franco's available, the Encyclopedia of Boxing, as I like to refer to him. So we'll get him on. Hopefully that's just a shout out for him. And thanks again, guys, for coming on. I'll talk to you in our virtual office.
Yes, sir.
You got it.
All right, later, guys. All right, so that was Joseph Correa, founder of FrontProofMedia.com, and boxing analyst Daniel Zaldivar, who's been on a few times, as always. Thank you again for listening. Please enjoy the fights and tune in for more episodes. Again, I apologize for the absence from last week. It was just a very busy week, and a lot of stuff happened, obviously, so we needed a break with all the stuff that happened in the news and around the world. But we're back and moving forward, as we all should be. So be safe, take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.